he's out for 2023, really. I can't say it's surprising, but yeah, what's your thoughts, mate?
How many tabs? Oh my God.
Do you know what? I was actually going to clean it up before you came here.
How many tabs?
Allow me, man. I'm working every one of them, man. My laptop hates me more than you, mate. But there's a method to the madness, man. That's why we've got them. I'm trying to make sure nobody misses any information. I can't imagine you would have missed it, but I thought, you know what? Just in case he hasn't seen it, let me make sure he's able to read everything. This is the thanks I get.
It's very thoughtful. It's very thoughtful.
I feel like Tomiyasu last season where he's underappreciated, but fair enough.
The words "I'm done with Thomas Partey" are on the tip of my tongue. Do I want to say that? I don't know. I think if Thomas Partey, it's always been the case, isn't it? It's if Thomas Partey can remain fit. The problem is he's so blimmin' good. He's so good at football, and he provides us such a different option at the base of the midfield that we don't have. I think we look fantastic when he plays in certain game states and in certain games.
Might see Rice players more of a number 8, an extended period if we had someone of Partey could stay fit, man, and see that different Declan Rice.
And honestly, away at the Bernabeu, who would I rather have? I'd rather have Partey and Rice, you know. So I really want him to be around, but I just at some point you have to accept that I don't know anything. I have no information on his professionalism around, looking after his body, so I'm not going to speculate on that. But what I am going to say is there are some players who, for whatever reason, just can't stay fit. And at some point, you have to make a decision and say, is that worth... You always have to make with these things, I think, because the player's good, you have to start looking at the finances. It's like, how much is he on?
He must be on like 150, close to 200. Either way, he's probably one of the, maybe it's changed with the new contracts, but he's clearly near the higher earners of Arsenal Football Club on the wrong side of 30 and not being fit. Yeah. So it's a decision to make.
Can we afford to do that? And then you have to look at, I think this is a market question. It's like, can you look at the market and say, yeah, there's value in this player who could come in and do 95% of the job for 80% of the wages and be available 57% more of the time. So, I think, I wonder whether it might be time to move on. I think this is going to come down to the market. I think it's going to come down to
move him on in January. Obviously he's injured, but
if for example, we could get 30 million for Thomas Partey, which I highly doubt. But you never know. A Saudi club in January coming in, who knows? If we could get 25-30 million for Thomas Partey, and it freed up some money for, it sounds like the Douglas Luiz interest. Personally, I think they're quite different players, but you go for a different profile. I don't know. I think about what Thomas Partey can bring to the team, and I don't think anyone else can. So I'm always keen to be like, no, leave him around. But it's the same with Jesus. It's the same with Zinchenko to some degree, although it's better this season because I think we're managing his minutes better. At some point, it doesn't matter how talented a football player is. If you can't stay on the pitch, it doesn't matter. Like it's the same as, if you can't trap a ball, you could have the distance running records. You could be scoring 50 goals a season in the championship.
It's like being like you. It's like being a great content creator. But if you never made any vids on a consistent basis, then it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, it's crazy.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I think oh my God. But yeah, it's like anything. We all know those people who have all these ideas for businesses, or they have all these thoughts. So I'm going to get on this, I'm going to do that. Again, if you don't do it, it kind of doesn't matter. So I do think this is a market thing. I really do. I think this is a case of let's see what is available in January, and if the right thing happens, I probably would move him on. Yeah.
It's one where it's difficult for me, both not just this January, and in the summer. I think there's every logic with actually keeping Thomas Partey for next season, provided we bring in other personnel in a way that, obviously you want to see him and Declan Rice play together. But one luxury of Declan Rice is that we haven't got to see him getting real extended run as a number 8. But with him in the middle, we can kind of sleep easy. God forbid if Declan Rice wasn't here, we'd really be in trouble, really and truly. I do find it a bit weird with Partey, and I would love to hear or be able to talk to Arteta off the books and Partey off the books as to why this has happened. Because as an ignorant fan, he seemed ever fit, and that was a big attraction when we signed him from Atletico. Seemed like he was ever fit. I know La Liga and England are different, but Simeone plays intense football. I didn't think that would be an issue. Now, maybe it's something that they're doing in terms of his rehab that we're not doing. Maybe it's the league. Maybe it's lifestyle choices. Maybe it's age. I don't know. I would imagine Arsenal have probably been thinking about moving him on. Like last summer, I don't think they were forcing him out, but I think it was, if we dealt with all the other players we need to deal with and an offer comes on the table, then we have a decision to make. And I do think this is Partey's last season for what it's worth. You know, he's contracted until 2025. The club have obviously discussed it. You can't rule it out, it could change, but I just feel, you know, his age, his lack of availability, you know, us needing for other players in that regards, the holes that have been left in midfield, in which I don't really have sympathy for Arteta because we've seen this. I just think it's a good opportunity to move him on in the summer with a year left. You look at the big money signings we've brought, the contracts we've obviously extended. I think the club will look at it and say, you know what, Ramsdale, we'll get a decent fee for you. Smith Rowe, potentially, God forbid, there's a decent fee. With Thomas Partey, it's the chance to just get the wages, hefty wages off the wage bill, and maybe cashing on that younger model, really. And it's sad, man, because, you know, as much as I get onto Thomas Partey for being injured, I won't be naive to quite say we was over the hill. But last season, him and Tierney actually, but focusing on Partey, he was fit for 40 games, I believe, all comps, and 33 in the league. So I don't know why this is, but I can't say that, you know, us as normal football fans, we didn't expect this at some point. Edu and Mikel Arteta have to. They've seen it since they've walked into the club, or since they bought this individual. And we knew we were going to live or die by midfield, essentially. So we're going to have to get on with it. Whether there's a market opportunity to go for in January, I don't know. Where are you at with potentially signing Douglas Luiz? Because I don't, as you said, I think he's a different profile. I don't think he's as good as Partey. I think he will be overpriced in January, naturally. I think we would have to overpay. But yeah, between them household names and maybe, our scouts doing a job, I don't know where we're at. But where are you at with potentially Douglas Luiz? Because we've also been linked with him and Zubimendi again.
Yeah, I'm not.
There we go.
There it is.
Got there in the end, man.
He knew. Actually, I haven't actually even seen this, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh, now you're friends of the tab police now. I see.
Arsenal are going to look again into the midfielders market in January. I understand Douglas Luiz remains their favourite option in Arsenal's list since long term. Yeah.
Signed a new deal last year as well. And
yeah, look, the interest is clear. I mean, I've never watched him and gone, oh. So, you know, but the problem is I've said this. I said that about Ramsdale. I said that about White. I said that about, you know, but obviously you can see the qualities of someone like a Declan Rice. And someone like a Trossard maybe more, but especially going further
said
back.
About Havertz, or is he still Berbatov, mate?
Moving on. But yeah, I think I don't know. I suppose what I'm saying with Luiz, nothing jumps out to me. I think, like, can he pass? Yes. Is he a decent midfielder? Yes. Can he, you know, has he got a bit about him? Has he got, you know, is he a Premier League level footballer? Yes, absolutely. But I don't see what makes him that next level. I mean, how old is he?
He must be in his mid-20s, man. Let me look. He must be about 25 or something like that. Let me have a butcher.
Okay. Yeah, he's 25. So
yeah, bang on. 25, 26 next year.
I don't know. I suppose maybe I need to look into him and hear people talk about him. I haven't really made up my mind. Nothing I've seen so far makes me go, wow. And if we're going to be spending that kind of money, and I'm also, you know, are we going to play him as more of an 8? I don't know, I suppose.
For me, it's a thing where I'm having Douglas Luiz. You know, I agree with you. He doesn't jump out and I think, wow, we're going up a level. But, you know, if you bring in a couple of players that are decent squad players or play to a suitable standard, then suddenly, you know, we have gone up a level indirectly. I think he's ever present. I think he's fairly tenacious as a 6 or 8. You know, Edu's seen him in his old job in Brazil. Arteta's indirectly worked with him at City. We have been signing Premier League proven players, and generally, apart from, you know, Mr. 65 million, they've all kind of done well. To be fair, William didn't. I'm having him. But as you said there, it comes down to the money. Now, I don't really care because it's not my money and things like that. Not that I've got millions, but if it was a 20, 30, 40 even, you could go with that, in it, really. Where are they going to put him? Because if you look at it and you say, well, Arsenal, you lot have been spending money. We've just given him a new deal. Emre's kind of flying with Aston Villa. You're going to kind of have to pay an inconvenience January fee. And ultimately, if he, in his own way, is the difference between us achieving what we want to or not, then fair enough. But he's probably going to cost probably too much. And then when you look at the summer, could you go for Zubimendi with his release clause? Could you go for this guy, that guy, and the other? I'm sure there's all different ranges of profiles, really. And it does make me go back to last summer, really, where, you know, again, I'm not the biggest critic of Kai Havertz beyond the obvious. I believe in him. I want to give him a chance. There are obviously concerns, but 65 million pounds was essentially spent on a player that you can play in midfield, you can play up front, but what are you and what are you best at? And when you're best at, whatever you're best at, Are you one of the best in the squad at that, beyond the obvious? And are you one of the best in the league? And do you really make us more comfortable in the midfield body? Could we have kind of, same way we got Declan Rice, could we have just dealt with this in the summer, essentially? I'm having Douglas Luiz, but I just think he's going to cost too much money. I think we need a lot of luck. We need him to make it clear he wants to leave. We clearly need a lot of willingness from Aston Villa to get the deal done. But it comes down to money. I placed Douglas Luiz personally with the Pedro Netos and Ivan Tonys, and that, yeah, they're attainable players, but you're going to have to pay a lot. And I can't see us doing that in January, especially where the fans are going to want stuff in the summer. And, you know, is 50 to 60 million on Douglas Luiz, 65 to 100 on Tony, whatever they want for Neto with his injury, is that more value for money, or are these good players that we can get now, or could you get better in the summer? I don't know. I really don't. So
yeah,
it's a tricky one.
I think from a deal perspective, quickly, like, it sounds like the David Raya situation, you know, we had some report from his agent yesterday saying it's, you know, it is 100% an FFP thing, and that was our last deal of the window. So I wonder how close we are to the mark on FFP. I think of Douglas Luiz. How much did we bid for him last time? Like 30 mil?
30 or something. And they told us where to shove it, really and truly. I think that would have been a decent little buy had we have done it then. I would have been cool.
Yeah. But in January, with a new, you know, after, you know, clearly we're the ones who need him. Do you know what I mean? If we have a Thomas Partey injury, you know, they're going to be looking at 50, 60. So I don't know. I don't know. Especially, it feels unlikely to me. And I wonder whether, I'm sure Douglas Luiz is interested. I'm sure he is, because why would we, you know, keep going back in? I'm sure Fabrizio is well connected, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't know. I find it a little bit hard to get my head around at the minute, I suppose.
Same. And ultimately it comes down to money, man. Of course, I would like fairly household names or players that we know, but, you know, by all means, Arteta and Edu, go after them players or go after players we don't know. I mean, we have to have looked at this midfield for a number of years and known that was an area we needed to bring in longevity. Beyond the obvious, Declan Rice is of the right age, best years in front of him. Beyond Declan Rice, and I'm focusing purely on people likely to line up with or in place of Declan Rice behind Odegaard, I think there's more questions than answers, really. You know, I think Declan Rice is the only player that there's no question marks over, apart from in a good way, you know, can he really become that number 8 as well as locking down the 6? Lokonga, the less said about him, the better. Obviously, Thomas Partey is a quality player, but he's on the wrong side of 30 and he can't stay fit. We love Jorginho, but I think with Jorginho, I think he does a lot better than people give him credit for. I think he was all right against Newcastle, but you are going to have them games like potentially against Chelsea in that first half where him and Zinchenko's a bit suicidal on the transition, or like against Spurs where there's too much space for him. So you kind of sign up for that. And then, yeah, it's only Declan Rice. I think you look at our defensive options, whatever you say about them, we've got some good collective options, including Raya and Ramsdale. Up front, we all would like another striker or a winger, but I think there's more answers than questions. It's that midfield. And if I'm really harsh, Edu and Arteta, you both were midfielders. So this should be the area that there should be confirmation over. So we'll have to see. What do you make of us sending scouts to go and watch Zubimendi again against Benfica on Wednesday? You know, again, last Jan we was linked with him. Didn't go for him in the summer. Neither did Barca for all the talk around him. Been linked with us again and a number of other European clubs. You having him. Younger Jorginho to a degree to me. With the ability to defend.
Yeah, more metronome, kind of a bit more Jorginho-esque. And I think you're right that if you look at his defensive numbers, he's got something about him as well. I like him. I think
same region of Spain as Arteta as well.
Yeah, it could help. I don't know. I think you know, so many things have to come together for a player to come to a club. I think people think about it like it's, you know, FIFA, you have one target, you go and get them, you pay whatever they, you know, but it's so many things, you know, he has to want to come,
like that,
the agents, the parents, the family, the club,
timing.
the timing, the squad space, the registrate, you know, so many things that need to come together. It's not just whether the player's good. There will be players on lists everywhere, and there will be, you know, scouts and, you know, the constant conversations about certain players. There's a whole, you know, departments of the football club just constantly going to games, watching players, or creating reports. And, you know, whether you press the button and you know, there's also always, you know, Zubimendi's agents have been contacted. You know, that might be because it's like well, we're going to go for this guy, but if we can't, then we need to go for this guy. We need to put in the legwork early
and stuff like that. Plenty of meetings taking place all the time.
I'm sure he's an option. I'm sure he's on the list somewhere, and I'm sure he's someone that Arteta and Edu like. Does that mean we're going to go get him? No. In terms of the player, I need to watch him a bit more, but I like him. I think he's, obviously a good age profile. I think he's got the technical ability. I like what he does on the ball. I think, he's an all-round midfielder, and I was surprised when I watched him at how good he was defensively. Because I think I maybe I went in with that kind of presupposition of, it's a Spanish midfielder. He'll be really techie and lovely, but actually won't have as much on off the ball. But I actually think he's got a lot off the ball. So I like him, but I think But yeah, as I say, I think so many things have to come together to make things happen that I don't know. I think especially in November, like I think January is so market dependent. It is so dependent on who
it's a
you can get out the
reactionary
door.
market in essence. You're reacting to what you did or didn't do in the summer. Some players want to leave, some players want to do others. There's contracts. It's a reactionary market. I share everything you're saying with Zubimendi. I just think it comes down to, when you look at it, people will sit there and say, oh, he's got a 50-odd million release clause. Clearly that makes us a bit like when we bought Partey. That makes it easier for us. But as you said, there's a lot of dominoes that kind of have to fall into place. And I don't know him. A year could change. But last year we heard he did not want to leave Sociedad because they were mid-season. They're fighting for the Champions League to be in it. That's his boyhood club. You flip it on its head. They've qualified for the last 16 now. Why would you want to leave mid-season? And also, we've got to remember it's a Euros year. As we know, that can boost your chances of getting into the Spain squad, or it can obviously decrease your chances. So maybe it's best just him being focused and stuff. I think we should use these months now to kind of put the groundworks to signing him in the summer. Like I've said previously on the vid, I would like it to be a thing where if we could sign him in Jan, great. But we sign maybe a lesser known profile midfield just to help us tick over. And then your big money, big ticket relative man signs in the summer. I think that's where we're at with him. I think the groundwork has to be put into place now. And hopefully we could do it. There's a bunch of reasons as to why Mikel Arteta could tempt him, really. I do like his teammate Moreno. I don't know if that's the same Moreno that was at Newcastle and Dortmund, but he's not as blessed technically as him, but he is quite tenacious in that midfield role, man. To be honest, Sociedad have a lot of decent players, and with us loaning them Tini, you'd imagine maybe indirectly conversations went ahead. And I'm going a bit left, but I always
Agent
think,
Kieran.
Yeah, bro, you need to do that. But I always think, and I don't know if it's just me, this is a bit random, but do you ever wonder what Arsenal would look like if we obviously got Zubimendi at the time, got Rafinha, got Vlahovic, got Lisandro Martinez, got Skolobek? Like, do you ever sit there and wonder, with some of the Mikel Arteta, Mudryk, the targets that we missed out on, do you ever wonder what our team may have looked like?
Yeah, and I think it kind of comes back to what I was talking about earlier with Pep. Like, I think people have this idea maybe that there is a dream 11, and he'll stop at nothing until that happens. There's lists. There's this, if we sign that player, then that player makes sense, and if that player comes, then maybe we shouldn't go get that player, and all that sort of stuff. And it's about putting it together. I mean, personally, I think looking at the targets that we're after is interesting because it tells you that there's a certain profile that Mikel thought, at least we know Mikel thought, was missing from the squad. And I think the only one, I think I'm less convinced about the number 9. I think we'll go and do it probably on balance, because I think in terms of Vlahovic or an Osimhen or whoever, because I do think the fitness issues. But the one profile that I do think we are missing is another kind of superstar runner winger. And I know we've signed Reece. Maybe we feel that Reece is enough.
I think we
in
need
that
that
role
to protect us. If I'm honest, if we couldn't bring someone
maybe
in, we've got a body.
I don't know. I think I look at Mudryk and I go, we don't have that. Martinelli is different from Mudryk and has a different skill set. And I think I look at that. I look at
real goals, not fluky crosses. You're right. He is
different. I think Mudryk is more of a pure winger, and Martinelli can become more of a second striker or maybe even a striker. So I don't know. I wonder whether we're still not necessarily looking at Mudryk, but I do wonder whether we see a winger
kind of
coming
profile.
in. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Look, we were here less than a year ago, potentially spending 60, 70 million on Mudryk. So you can't tell me that there's not serious interest in that kind of profile. And then you can't tell me that buying Trossard and Havertz in the front line has scratched that itch. You can tell me, if Jesus stays fit, that Mikel went for a different profile of 9. You can tell me that. But I don't think you can tell me that itch has been scratched.
I don't know the credibility on football transfers, really. They linked us with Tchouaméni, but apparently they've said Vlahovic is still Arteta's preferred number 9 target. Now, we know all them Januaries ago, we aggressively went for him. That summer, we did sign Jesus. Do you reckon it could be one in theory that we could revisit? Would you revisit him? I know some Arsenal fans would say he kind of blanked our texts and things like that, but yeah, would you go back in for Vlahovic?
But also, we weren't as good looking at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, You know,
And
sometimes
he did look like he made clear he wanted to go Juventus. So maybe we're texting the girl that clearly made it clear I don't want to talk to you.
It's also, you know, if you grew up in Italy, like I don't know if you spent much time in Italy. Italians are very generally. I don't know about Dusan himself, but Dusan as if I know. But you know, I don't know about the guy himself. But you know, I think Italians are generally quite patriotic, and they're quite sort of, you know, they want to support Italy and stuff.
Yeah,
So
man.
I
He
think
said I supported Juventus from a baby in Serbia. So that is his thing, isn't
yeah.
it?
So I think you know, being in that culture. I'm not saying he's Italian. Being in that culture and being around that, I wonder whether Juventus felt like the better choice at the moment. And I probably would have said to him if I was him at the time. I mean, when was it? 2021? Like we weren't even
Yeah.
top four, were we? So
Well, it
fair
might have
enough.
been 2022, give or take. Yeah, I think it
So
was 2022. But
2022,
yeah, you're
yeah.
right. We weren't as you made the point of this live stream. We weren't as sexy and attractive back then. You know,
We weren't.
internally you could see the vision. Now everybody can see it. On the topic of the Italy, you made a great point as well, because when we was linked with Locatelli, did his agent come out the other day and said Arsenal actually offered more to Sassuolo? The guy said Sassuolo wanted to do business with us, but he wanted Juventus.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is what it is.
I think specifically, like for example, I don't think the same thing would happen with a Spanish or a player playing in a Spanish club with like Atletico. I don't think that maybe it would happen with Real Madrid and Barca.
Yeah.
But I do think Italian players or players playing in Italy or have played in there for a long time, I do feel that there's a slight romanticism of those kind of old
Very
clubs like
patriotic.
Juve, AC Milan and stuff. I do feel that.
Like
So
only Verratti kind of goes left to what you're saying, really and truly.
So yeah, I don't know. I like Vlahovic. I've watched him a few times since. I wonder athletically if he's got enough. That's my only
I wonder
concern.
that as well.
He's a little bit stiff. But I like him in terms of the profile. He's got that power and that sort of
23, 24 as well.
Yeah, good age, and you know I like him. The only thing I want is a bit more running power, I think, and I wonder whether he's got that.
Where would you rank like 3 players we've been linked with? I probably know how you're going to do it, but for the fans, you know, not that we've been linked with Osimhen like that, but Osimhen's the name on everybody's lips. Obviously, Vlahovic is the man in front of us, and your best friend Ivan Toney. How would you where would you rank all 3 if like what you would do? And not just ability included, you know, as much as you can with the feasibility of signing these players, etc., etc.
Ivan Toney 4th.
How can you feel about players?
I would probably go with Osimhen first, and then I'd put Vlahovic second and Toney third in terms of the profile and in terms of what Arsenal need right now. Then in terms of the deal,